One of the best things Better Call Saul has given us is a great cast of brand new characters, including Chuck, Kim, Howard, Lalo, Nacho, and even some of the smaller characters like Mr. X, Dr. Caldera, Werner, and the list goes on. But what's really impressive is that these characters aren't just great because they're fun or interesting, but each also serves a particular role. Every character contributes to the show's plot and themes in a way that feels necessary to the vision of Peter Gould, Vince Gilligan, and the rest of the writers. Today, I want to focus on Nacho specifically. He was initially a background supporting character, but over time, he's been given more development, screen time, and overall importance. In this video, we'll discuss why exactly that is. What does the Nacho Varga character contribute to the show, and why is he necessary for the story they're telling? First, a quick message from our sponsor. Whenever I make a video on Better Call Saul, people always ask me where they can watch the latest season. Netflix only goes up to season 4. Where can I find season 5? Well, in Denmark, they do have season 5 on Netflix, and with Surfshark, so can you. Surfshark is a VPN service which allows you to access the internet as though you are located somewhere else. So in this example, I just click on the browser extension, pick Denmark, and the next time I go to Netflix, Better Call Saul Season 5. Surfshark is also a great way to get past geo-blocks and government restrictions. Some countries won't allow you to access YouTube, for example. And can you imagine missing the latest one-take video because the government says you can't watch it? With Surfshark, you never have to worry about that. Wherever you are in the world, just connect back to your home country and access all the sites you normally do. Surfshark also keeps you safe and private while you're online by encrypting your data. So the next time you're on public Wi-Fi, turn on Surfshark VPN so you don't have to worry about anyone snooping while you log into your email, bank, or potentially expose any other sensitive data. Use my link in the description and promo code ONETAKE to get 83% off plus 4 months free. They also offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so no risk in trying it out for yourself. And now, back to Nacho. On the surface, there are two very clear ways Nacho contributes to Better Call Saul. We'll talk about those first, and then dive a little deeper into his character's thematic significance. First, since the show is a prequel, there is a challenge to building suspense in life or death scenarios. We already know the fate for many of the characters, so the writers can't really build suspense by threatening their lives. Instead, they do it in other ways. For example, in addition to characters' physical well-being, they also get us invested in their emotional well-being or the health of their relationships. Early on, we care about Jimmy's relationship with Chuck and hope to see it repaired. So there is suspense and tension in the conflict between the two siblings. We also care about Jimmy and Mike's emotional journeys. Both constantly teeter on a moral edge, and we worry about how far they will go. So there is tension as we watch them make their difficult choices. But sometimes, nothing builds suspense quite like threatening the life of a sympathetic character. Where Mike and Jimmy cannot fulfill that role because we know they live until Breaking Bad, Nacho can. The character began to gain our sympathies early on by seeming far more reasonable than the unhinged Tuco, and as a result, saving Jimmy McGill's life. Our sympathies were cemented later on when Nacho showed an overwhelming desire to leave cartel life, including all the money and power, for something far more important: love for his father. By that point, the character built up enough goodwill that we want to see him survive and walk away from the world of Hector, Gus, and Lalo. This sympathy, coupled with Nacho's largely unknown fate, means that in scenes where his life is threatened, or he's nearly discovered as a double agent, we feel the unrelenting tension we know so well from Breaking Bad. I should briefly mention that, yes, we do get one small clue into Nacho's future in Breaking Bad. The famed "it wasn't me, it was Ignacio" scene that YouTubers love to talk about, myself included. When Walt and Jesse kidnap Saul, he initially assumes that they're goons sent by Lalo and defends himself by shouting, "No, it wasn't me, it was Ignacio, he's the one!" Presumably in reference to some betrayal of Lalo that we may not have seen yet. And in case you need a reminder, Ignacio is Nacho's full first name. Anyway, all this line tells us is that Saul blames Nacho for something. It doesn't tell us if Saul believes Nacho is alive or not, and even if it did, Saul may not be current on his knowledge regarding Nacho's status. This is a good place to mention the second way Nacho contributes to Better Call Saul. He is a large part of the bridge between Saul and Breaking Bad. For example, Nacho is directly responsible for Hector's physical and mental state when we meet him in Breaking Bad, and he becomes a pawn in Gus's machinations that win him status as a drug kingpin, edging out the Salamancas. Not only does Nacho's character help answer the questions of how things came to be in Breaking Bad, but he also ensures the answers are emotionally satisfying and not just informational. Hector's failing health in Breaking Bad could have been explained by an unhealthy lifestyle or just plain bad luck. But instead, like any great narrative, it's the result of a character taking action against a seemingly insurmountable obstacle. When Hector threatens the life of his father, Nacho takes action by swapping Hector's medication for placebos. The entire subplot was filled with tension as Nacho made his move against the head of the Salamanca family. Every moment of it is unforgettable. The scene where he practiced dropping the meds into Hector's jacket pocket, the sweat dripping from his brow when he pulled it off, and the final act where he needed to swap the placebos with the original meds so no one catches on. And the consequences of his actions are still being felt. Since Gus caught Nacho in the act, he's been able to blackmail the character into acting as a double agent against Hector and Lalo. In this way, the writers masterfully fill in some of the blanks between Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad in a way that doesn't just satisfy curiosity, but also has massive repercussions for characters we've become heavily invested in. Like everything the writers have done on both shows, every plot point on the bridge between them carries heavy emotional and dramatic weight. In this case, that is mostly thanks to their leveraging the Nacho Varga character. In addition to his role in building suspense and connecting the two shows, Nacho also serves an important thematic role. To steal Jimmy's lingo from Saul's 5th season, Breaking Bad was about a man flooring it down bad choice road. The show explored what motivates someone down that decaying path of moral destruction and how it impacts the people around him. On that show, viewers had a grim fascination and morbid curiosity watching how far down the path of evil Walter White would go. And ultimately, Walter eroded most of the audience's sympathies by the time he reached the end. Better Call Saul is a little different in that the characters feel more tragic. Rather than ego and pride, they seem to be driven by more noble causes, or at least sympathetic flaws. Where Walt claimed he did it all for his family, it seems Mike truly is in it for his loved ones, not for money or power. Jimmy lies and manipulates because he has a chip on his shoulder for a world he thinks is out to get him, and he just doesn't seem to be built for anything else. Kim is disillusioned with the world of corporations and banks, so she wants to take on a Robin Hood-esque quest, and maybe she's a little addicted to Slippin' Jimmy-style antics. All of the characters are deeply flawed in ways that push them toward morally gray behavior, but none of them are in the same ballpark as the Walter White of Breaking Bad Season 5, who would gleefully dispose of a child's corpse in service of building an empire. Where audiences wanted to see Walt move further and further into darkness, Better Call Saul retained sympathy for characters like Jimmy and Kim, so we want to see them get off the road. But we know they won't anytime soon. Jimmy and Mike are still on the path to becoming the Saul and Mike we met on Breaking Bad, and Kim herself has just started flirting with the darker side of the law. So if the writers want to explore questions like, can you leave Bad Choice Road? When is it too late to take that exit, and what is the personal cost of taking it? They need another character, and that is where Nacho comes in. When we meet Nacho in Season 1, he's already been through the journey and is firmly established as a force in the cartel world. He still has further to go in terms of moving up the ranks, but he's already made his moral choices, and doesn't seem to struggle with the violence that is still new to Jimmy McGill. By introducing us to this character who is further along on the journey, we watch his struggle to escape from criminal life while the rest of the cast is just entering it. We saw this to some extent with Walt, Jesse, and even Saul himself, who all attempted to retire and evade the law, but in all three cases, the characters had essentially lost everything already and disappeared as a last resort. Though Saul's personal life during the timeline of Breaking Bad is still a bit of a mystery, so we don't have the full picture of what he sacrificed yet. With details of Saul's escape still pending, Nacho is the first character we've seen trying to escape before his life is entirely in shambles. He still has a father who has not disowned him, the way Jesse and Walt's families did them. He still has plenty to lose, and the stakes are high as he tries to dig his way out of the criminal underworld, versus Walt, who waited until it was very clearly too late. So if Nacho is uniquely positioned to explore the dilemma of escaping the criminal underworld, what does his story tell us about it? In seasons 3 to 5, we find Nacho trapped between a rock and a hard place. Hector forces Nacho to use his father's legitimate business as a front for their drug trade, and when he tries to escape this fate, Gus wields his blackmail over Nacho to force him into playing the role of spy within the Salamanca family. On the surface, it would seem Nacho is trapped in the criminal world by external forces, Gus, Hector, and Lalo. However, his current predicament can be traced back to choices he made. When Tuco's behavior becomes more volatile in Season 2, Nacho works with Mike to have him arrested, partially out of fear that Nacho's side deals will be discovered by the Salamancas, so there was an element of self-preservation involved. Then, Tuco receives a harsh sentence thanks to a gun charge, and Hector tries to convince Mike to say the gun was his, first by offering $5,000, then by threatening his granddaughter. Mike retaliates, eventually shutting down Hector's supply route by drawing police attention. This is when Hector decides to use Nacho's father's upholstery shop instead, smuggling drugs on the trucks carrying supplies for the shop. And ultimately, fearing for his father's safety, Nacho makes his move against Hector. This gives Gus his hold over Nacho and leads to Lalo, who shows up to keep an eye while Hector is indisposed. Early in Better Call Saul's run, or before the events of the series began, Nacho could have tried to leave. But the story shows us that the longer you spend in the darkness, the more likely it is to take hold and not let you go. In Walt's case, he was largely kept in the drug business due to his own ego, pride, and desire to build an empire. Nacho is kept in the business by external forces born out of his choices, and ultimately his heading a little too far down bad choice road. Now we're at the part of the story where we ask ourselves, does Nacho deserve to escape? Or is it too late? And if it's not too late, what will it cost him to get out? In the Season 5 finale, Nacho is complicit in a massacre at Lalo's compound, where the man's friends and family are killed by Gus's assassins. We can assume that many of those killed were at least tangentially involved in Lalo's business, but did they all deserve death? There were likely many among the group no more guilty than Nacho himself, and some probably far more innocent. And I'm sure in the final season, there is even more blood to be spilled as Nacho fights to escape the choices that brought him into Gus and Lalo's crosshairs. Violence paved the road to Nacho's current hell, and it seems the road back is no less bloody. This serves as a cautionary tale in its own right, but also strengthens the Jimmy and Kim story. Both of them are just beginning their journeys down a road Nacho already walked, so his story gives a preview of what lies ahead for them. In a general sense, we don't want Jimmy or Kim to make the wrong choices and give in to moral decay. But Nacho's story highlights what waits at the end of the road they're taking. His predicament makes very real the dangers of making those wrong choices, especially for Kim, where her fate is entirely unknown post Better Call Saul. Can you do a few wrong things to make some money and use it for good, the way Kim theoretically intends to? Nacho is the cautionary tale that should make us very worried for Kim, because he shows us that getting into the world of wrong things is a lot easier than getting out of it, even for people who aren't as tragically flawed as Walter White. Walt's character was driven by pride, ego, and a thirst for power befitting the character of a Greek tragedy. But Nacho brings this idea down to earth, where even those who are just in it for some money, and not anything grander than that, risk a similar fate. Nacho's initial motivation for getting into the drug trade is largely left out of the story, giving the impression that it is likely mundane. Perhaps he just had the right skill set and grew up around the right or wrong people, so that drug dealing seemed the most optimal and opportune path. For the story they are telling, it doesn't seem to matter. More important is what happens to Nacho now that he's here, and now that he's seen why he shouldn't be. At the moment, Nacho and his father's lives hang in the balance, and thematically, the writers have left us with a lot to think about. Perhaps in the final season, Nacho's fate will be stamped with the writer's thoughts on these issues, and they will make some definitive statements. The world of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul seems to be sewn with a tight moral fabric where no sins go unpunished and freedom always comes at a cost. So I'll be very curious to see just how much more punishment they decide Nacho deserves and how much further he'll have to go to earn his or his father's freedom. Perhaps it's too late to earn both, or maybe Peter Gould and the other writers do have a couple more El Camino endings to hand out. Hopefully, in a few months we'll find out. Anyway, I think we can wrap it up there. Nacho has become one of my favorite additions to the Breaking Bad universe. He brings a level of suspense to Better Call Saul that would be impossible otherwise, and a great emotional bridge from this prequel to the world we fell in love with back in 2008. He also opens up a new route of exploration into the theme of morality and choices. Nacho's journey shows the danger of heading too far down the road of moral grayness. And as we head into the final season, we're left to ask ourselves what it'll take to get off that road, if that's even possible. Let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more like it. With that, thank you for watching, and see you on the next One Take.